The rain hit so like it had been waiting all day to fall. Heavy, impatient, cold. Neon lights smeared across the wet pavement, turning the street outside Dowry Night Bistro into a blurred painting of red, blue, and gold. Inside, the dinner rush was dying down, but the tension had only started. Aisha Barlow tightened her apron and breathed through the knot in her chest. Another double shift. Another night pretending she wasn't exhausted, pretending she didn't miss home, pretending the fear in her bones didn't control her life. Table 6 is asking for you, Mina whispered urgently. And, Yuni, he looks like trouble. Aisha forced a smile. Everyone looks like trouble at this hour. But even she felt it, an odd shift in the air, one that made the tiny hairs on her arms rise. She walked toward table 6 with her notepad, her sneakers squeaking softly on the marble floors. The lights above glowed warm and low, but the air around that table felt colder, sharper, like winter had crawled inside the restaurant just to sit there. At first, she only saw the back of him, broad shoulders under a black tailored suit, the kind that never came off the rack. His posture was perfect, relaxed but alert. His presence pulled attention without trying. Then he lifted his head, and everything inside Aisha paused. He wore danger like a second skin, sharp jawline, cold eyes, the kind that rarely softened, a small scar slicing across his left eyebrow, and a calmness that made him even more unsettling. He didn't look at her, not right away. He just tapped his finger lightly on the table, slow, controlled, rhythmic, like he was counting down to something. Aisha cleared her throat. Good evening. What can I get for why? His gaze snapped up, her breath caught. His eyes were the kind that looked right through a person, as if reading the lies they told themselves. She had met dangerous men before, but this one felt like he lived on the border between violence and elegance. Kong Dahyun, whispered someone behind Aisha. She heard it, faint but terrified. The name echoed in her mind. She knew it. Everyone did. Seoul's quiet nightmare. A man whose shadow stretched across the city's underground like a blade. A man nobody approached unless they had a death wish. So why was he sitting in her section? Aisha swallowed and lifted her chin. What can I get you? His eyes lingered on her a second too long, tracing her face, her dark curls pulled into a loose bun, the tired defiance in her expression. You're new, he said softly. His voice was low, smooth, but carried something colder beneath. I've worked here 6 months, she replied. New to me, he corrected. Aisha didn't flinch, though her pulse jumped. What would you like to order? Instead of answering, he tilted his head, studying her with unsettling focus. You're not Korean. It wasn't a question. No, she said. American? She gave a tight nod. His eyes dipped to her name tag, Aisha, before rising again. Long way from home. Her throat tightened, memories flashing, sirens shouting, a night she ran without looking back. Some places are better left, she said quietly. Daehyun's gaze sharpened, like he heard the meaning under her words. But then he leaned back, letting the moment slip away. A glass of soju, he finally said. Cold. Right away. She turned to leave. Wait. His voice stopped her steps. When she looked back, his finger tapped the table again, calm but commanding. Bring it yourself, he said. Not anyone else. A strange chill ran down her spine, but she nodded and walked away. Mina met her behind the counter, with wide eyes. What did he say? Is he angry? Aisha shook her head. No, just intense. That man doesn't come here. Mina whispered, ever. If he's here tonight, something bad is happening. Aisha didn't respond, but she felt it too. The air around him was like a quiet storm. She returned with a chilled soju, placed a glass before him, and stepped back, only for his hand to close around her wrist. Soft, not painful, but firm enough to send heat rushing to her face. She stared at him. What happened to your hand? He asked. Aisha blinked, confused, then realized he was staring at the faint burn mark near her thumb, the one she usually hid. Kitchen accident, she said quickly. He didn't believe her, not for a second, but he let go. Aisha stepped back, but something in her chest stayed caught on him. He lifted the soju, took a slow sip, and then said the last thing she expected. Sit. She almost laughed. I work here. I'm aware. Then I can't sit. His eyes lifted, colder this time. I wasn't asking. Aisha felt heat rise inside her, not fear this time, but anger. I'm not one of your men, she said sharply. You don't give me orders. The two tables nearby fell completely silent. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. For the first time, something like amusement flickered in his eyes. Small, dangerous. "You're bold," he murmured. "No," she shot back. "Just tired of men thinking they own the world." He held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded once, approvingly. But just as she turned to leave, his phone vibrated on the table. He glanced at the caller ID, and the shift in his expression was instantaneous. The calm vanished. Murderous frost replaced it. He picked up the phone without greeting the caller. Aisha wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but the atmosphere grew so heavy she couldn't move away. "Where is he now?" Dae-hyun asked, voice low and lethal. A faint voice answered on the other end, too muffled to make out, but whatever it said made Dae-hyun's jaw clench. "Kill the lights in the warehouse," he ordered. "I'll handle it myself." Then he ended the call and stood. The entire room tensed. Even Aisha stepped back instinctively. He reached into his wallet, slipped out a black card, and placed it on the table. "Keep the change." It was far more money than the bill. Too much. He turned to leave, but someone at a nearby table, drunk and ignorant, muttered loudly, "These gangsters think they own the city." Aisha didn't even see Dae-hyun move. She only heard the sharp crack, the man's chair skidding, a gas spreading across the restaurant. Dae-hyun had slammed his hand down on the man's table, leaning dangerously close. His voice was ice. "Say it again." The man trembled, eyes wide. Aisha's heart hammered. She didn't know what came over her, fear, instinct, or pure stubbornness, but she marched straight toward them. "Enough," she said firmly. Dae-hyun's head turned slowly toward her. The room held its breath. Aisha stepped between him and the trembling customer. "You need to leave," she said, voice steady. "Right now." His eyes darkened. "Aisha," he said softly, "move?" No, a single word, but it shook the air. Dae-hyun straightened, towering over her. "You have no idea who you're protecting," he warned. "And you," she shot back, "have no idea who you're threatening." Something in him snapped at those words, not anger, but shock, like no one had spoken to him like that in years. Then, without thinking, without caring who watched, Aisha pushed him back. A full-handed shove to his chest. Gasps echoed. Chairs scraped. Someone dropped a spoon. No one touched Kong Dae-hyun. No one even breathed wrong around him. But she had just slapped him. Her palm landed before she could stop herself. A sharp, echoing sound across the restaurant. His head turned slightly from the impact. Silence. Pure, frozen silence. Aisha's hand shook. Her breath caught. She couldn't believe what she had done. Slowly, painfully slowly, Dae-hyun turned his face back toward her. His cheek held the faintest red mark from her slap. But his eyes didn't show anger. They showed something far more dangerous. Interest. "You," he murmured, voice barely above a whisper, "have just changed everything." Aisha's pulse thundered, because she knew, from the way he looked at her now, that her life would no longer be the same. Not after this. Not after touching him. Not after challenging him. Not after waking something in him he didn't know could still be awakened. And then the restaurant doors burst open. Rain. Heavy footsteps. And 3 masked men stepped inside with weapons. One pointed directly at Dae-hyun. "Boss," the tallest said, "we found you." Aisha's eyes widened. Dae-hyun's expression didn't change. But he stepped in front of her, as if protecting her, as if it was instinct. And then he whispered, "Stay behind me." Rain dripped from the coats of the masked men as they stepped deeper into the restaurant. Their boots echoed across the polished floor like a slow countdown. Customers froze, dishes rattled, and someone quietly sobbed behind the counter. The entire room felt like it was holding its breath. Aisha stood directly behind Dae-hyun, her fingers trembling against the back of his suit jacket. She didn't mean to touch him, but fear had a way of making the body act first. The tallest man took another step forward. His voice was rough, muffled behind the mask. "Boss, the chairman wants you delivered tonight, dead or alive." Aisha felt Dae-hyun's back rise with a slow inhale. He didn't step back. He didn't hide. He didn't even look intimidated. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, as if annoyed. "You bring guns into my space," he said, voice calm and dead cold. "During my meal?" The men tightened their grips. One of them barked, "On your knees?" Before he could finish, Dae-hyun's hand shot back, grabbing Aisha's wrist as he whispered, "Move left." He didn't give her time to decide. He pulled her with him, shifting their bodies just as a gunshot cracked through the restaurant. Glass exploded. Screams rippled through the air. A tray clattered to the ground. Aisha stumbled, but Dae-hyun steadied her instantly, placing her behind him again with forceful precision. Then the storm hit. Dae-hyun moved, not like a businessman, not like a customer, not like the man who had just been slapped across the face by an angry waitress. He moved like a weapon, fast, silent, merciless. He disarmed the nearest man with a twist that made bones snap. Aisha winced as the man collapsed, screaming. Another lunged forward. Dae-hyun blocked, grabbed, slammed him through a table. The wood split clean under the impact. The restaurant was chaos. Running staff, crying customers, overturned chairs. But Aisha couldn't move. She couldn't even blink, because there was something terrifyingly beautiful about the precision in his movements. Something deadly, something controlled, something feral. The third man raised his gun at Dae-hyun's back. Aisha didn't think. She didn't scream. She threw the nearest object she could grab, a ceramic plate. It hit the man so hard his shot fired into the ceiling instead of Dae-hyun. Dae-hyun spun instantly, eyes locking onto her for half a second, shocked, impressed, before he took the man down with a brutal kick that left him unconscious. Silence returned in a broken, shuddering wave. Customers stared in horror at the bodies on the floor. The manager was hiding behind the counter. Mina sobbed into her apron, and Aisha, she felt her heart pounding in her throat. Dae-hyun ran a hand through his hair, wiping a streak of blood from his jaw. When he looked up, his eyes found her like a magnet. He walked toward her, slow, deliberate, unblinking. Aisha stepped back instinctively, but the wall met her spine. He stopped inches from her, close enough that she could feel the heat of his breath, smelled the faint scent of rain and cologne on his clothes. His voice was low, too low. You could have died. Aisha swallowed. So could you. He stared at her, like he was trying to understand her, like she had become the only unsolvable problem in his world. You slapped me, he said quietly. Her cheeks flushed with both fear and something she didn't want to name. You were scaring people. You slapped me, he repeated, voice almost softer this time. It was the only way to stop you. A long, tense silence stretched between them. Then he smirked, dangerously. You're insane, he murmured. And I don't know why, but I like it. Aisha's heart skipped. Her palms felt hot. Before she could speak, footsteps thundered from outside. A black sedan slid to a stop in front of the shattered restaurant. Two men in suits rushed inside, tense, alert, scanning the scene. Boss, one shouted. We lost them on the highway, but these three. Dae-hyun raised a hand. Take them. The men nodded and dragged the unconscious attackers away. One of the employees whispered shakily, Should we call the police? But Dae-hyun's voice cut in immediately. No police. I'll handle this. His tone left no room for questions. He turned back to Aisha. Her hands were still shaking. Her apron was smeared with dust from when she hit the wall. Her breathing shallow. His eyes softened, barely, but enough that she noticed. Come with me, he said. She froze. What? No. I have work. You're in danger now. Because of you, she snapped. Yes, he admitted calmly. And that means I'll fix it. Aisha shook her head. I don't even know you. You know enough, he said. You know I don't let people who protect me die. She blinked. I didn't protect you. I threw a plate. You saved my life. His tone was final, absolute, and I protect what's mine. Aisha's stomach dropped. I'm not yours. Not yet, he said quietly, but you will be. Her breath hitched. She didn't want this man, didn't want this life, didn't want the danger tied to him, but something about the certainty in his voice shook her deeply. He extended his hand toward her. Aisha. She stared at that hand, at the blood staining his knuckles, at the strength in his posture, at the storm in his eyes. If you stay here, he said, they'll come back. Not for me, for you, because you stood between us. Fear cold climbed her spine. You're safer with me. She hated that part of her believed him. Before she could respond, another man in a suit rushed in from outside. Boss, he said urgently, we found something at the warehouse. You need to see it. Now. Dae-hyun cursed under his breath, frustration flashing across his eyes. He turned back to Aisha and stepped closer. I'm coming back for you, he said, voice low enough only she could hear. Don't go anywhere. Aisha opened her mouth to protest. but he was already walking away, his men following behind him. He stopped at the shattered doorway and looked back one last time. That look, it wasn't anger. It wasn't coldness. It was something far more dangerous. Possession, interest, and a silent promise. The car door slammed. Engines roared, and the black sedan sped into the rain. Aisha exhaled shakily. Then Mina grabbed her arm. "Yini, what did you get yourself into?" Aisha didn't answer, because she didn't know. But she did know one thing. Her life had changed tonight. And when the door swung open again 30 minutes later, rain blowing inside, the lights flickering, Aisha froze, because standing there, drenched, breathing hard, eyes darker than before, was Dae-hyun. His voice was a low growl. "Aisha, pack your things. Now." The wind slammed the restaurant door open so hard that the hinges rattled. Everyone jumped. Mina let out a tiny scream. Even the manager ducked behind the counter again. But Aisha didn't move. She couldn't, because the man standing in the doorway didn't look like the controlled, lethal mafia boss who had shattered 3 attackers like glass only half an hour ago. This Dae-hyun looked shaken, drenched from the rain, breathing too hard, jaw tight, eyes colder than ice, yet burning from the inside. He scanned the room once, every corner, every table, until his eyes locked onto her. When they did, his entire body stilled, as if he'd only come back to confirm she was still alive. He walked toward her with the kind of purpose that made the floor seem too small for him. Water dripped from his hair down the sharp line of his jaw. His suit was soaked, clinging to him like a second skin, making him look even more dangerous. Customers parted instinctively, giving him a path. Aisha felt her throat tighten as he stopped directly in front of her. "Pack your things," he repeated, voice low, firm, unarguable. "We're leaving." She blinked, stunned. "Leaving? Why? What's going on?" Dae-hyun stepped closer, too close, his rain-soaked presence radiating heat and danger. "They found something," he said. "Something connected to you." Aisha's heart stopped. "Me?" His jaw clenched. He looked away for a moment, as if holding on to the last thread of his self-control. "A name," he said quietly. "Your name." Aisha staggered backward until her spine hit the counter. That's not possible. They don't know I'm here." "They do now," Dae-hyun replied. "And if I found out within minutes, so did everyone else." Every word hit her like a blow. Her lungs wouldn't fill. Her hands shook. For a moment, the room spun. No. She had run far. She had hidden. She had changed everything. How could anyone have found her? Dae-hyun reached out, gripping her shoulders firmly. "Aisha," he said, forcing her to look at him. "Tell me who's after you." She stared at him, at the man who looked like a storm, who could break necks in a blink, who didn't fear anything. And she whispered the truth she hadn't spoken out loud in years. "They're not after me," she said, voice trembling. "They want to punish me." His eyes narrowed. "For what?" "For surviving." Something in his expression changed, just for a second, like recognition. But then he straightened, his voice dropping into command. "You're leaving with me. Now." She shook her head, panic rising. "I can't just walk out." "You can," he said, "because if you stay here, you'll be dead by morning." Mina clutched her apron, eyes wide. "Yini, maybe you should go." Aisha turned to her, trembling. "Mina, I don't want to drag anyone else into this." "Too late," Dae-hyun said sharply. "They came in here tonight looking for me. Next time, they'll look for anything connected to you." His gaze swept the room. "This place won't survive a second attack." Aisha felt cold wash over her. He was right. Of course he was right. But she wasn't ready to go with him. "I barely know you," she whispered. His eyes softened, just barely. "But I know what it looks like when someone is hunted." A small silence fell between them. Heavy, painful. Then, without warning, he took off his coat, still dripping wet, and draped it around her shoulders. It was warm, and too intimate. "Come with me," he said, softer but still intense. "At least until we figure out who sent the man." She swallowed. "What if I don't trust you?" He leaned in until his forehead almost touched hers. "Then trust this," he whispered. "I don't let people hurt what's mine." Her breath hitched. "I told you," she murmured. "I'm not yours." His eyes dropped to her lips, lifted back to her eyes. Slow, dangerous. "You said that," he replied. "But the world disagrees." They attacked you because of me, and they'll keep coming. His voice dropped even lower. I won't let them touch you. Aisha looked away, heart pounding too hard. You can't make that promise. He lifted her chin with 2 fingers, forcing her to meet his eyes again. I just did. The room fell silent around them. No workers, no customers, no shattered glass, only him and her in a world carved by fear and fate. Finally, Aisha exhaled shakily. Fine, she whispered. 10 minutes. Let me grab my things. Dae-hyun didn't move. He didn't step back. He just watched her with a gaze that felt like a vow. I'm going with you, he said. No more surprises tonight. Mina nodded quickly. I'll help her. Aisha glared. Mina? But Dae-hyun's voice cut in, firm, quickly. As Aisha and Mina rushed toward the staff room, Dae-hyun stayed where he was, eyes scanning the room with a predator's vigilance. One of his men entered quietly, bowing. Boss, the car is ready. Any movement outside? Dae-hyun asked. The man hesitated. We believe someone is watching the building. Dae-hyun's jaw tightened. He didn't look surprised, only angrier. Double the security, he ordered. No one follows us. Yes, boss. The man disappeared, footsteps sharp. Dae-hyun slipped his hand into his pocket and took a steadying breath. But his fingers twitched. He wasn't used to losing control. He wasn't used to caring about someone he shouldn't. He wasn't used to feeling fear. Not for himself. For her. Minutes later, Aisha returned, backpack slung over one shoulder, Mina still fussing with her jacket zipper. But before she could take a step toward the exit, a loud crash echoed from outside. Aisha flinched. Mina gasped. Dae-hyun moved instantly, placing himself in front of her, one arm sweeping her behind him so fast she barely felt her feet. His voice was a cold whisper. They're here. Another crash, glass shattering, a shadow moving outside the window. Dae-hyun grabbed her hand. Run. And they sprinted toward the back exit. Just as the lights in the restaurant flickered out, the lights died so fast the room collapsed into darkness. 1 second there was a soft glow of hanging lamps. The next, nothing but the sound of rain, broken glass, and terrified breathing. Aisha's heart slammed against her ribs. Dae-hyun didn't hesitate. His grip tightened around her hand as he pulled her toward the back hallway, moving fast, precise, silent, like a man who had walked through darkness his entire life. Aisha, stay right behind me, he whispered. His voice was low and steady, but beneath it, a current of urgency rippled. Mina grabbed her arm. Yuni! Dae-hyun stopped and turned, blocking the 2 women with his body. You, he said to Mina, lock yourself in the storage room. Don't make a sound. Do not open the door for anyone but my men. Understand? Mina nodded so fast her hair shook. Why, yes, boss. Aisha swallowed hard. Boss, she whispered. It doesn't matter, Dae-hyun muttered. Move. He pushed the back door open just as heavy footsteps thundered through the restaurant. Someone shouted from front. Check the kitchen. She's with him. Aisha froze. That voice. It was familiar. Too familiar. Sharp. Cruel. One she hadn't heard in 2 long, painful years. Her stomach dropped. No, it couldn't be him. Not here. Not in Seoul. Not this fast. Dae-hyun sensed her terror instantly. Her breath hitched. Her steps faltered. Her hand trembled in his. He turned back toward her, eyes narrowing. You recognize that voice. It wasn't a question. Aisha stared at the ground. I thought he was gone, she whispered. I thought I escaped. Dae-hyun cupped her jaw, firm but gentle enough to anchor her shaking. You did, he said, and I'm not letting him take you back. Before she could respond, a gunshot ripped through the darkness. So close it struck the metal counter beside them. Sparks flying. Move, Dae-hyun ordered. Aisha ran with him into the alley behind the restaurant. The night air hit her like ice, sharp, wet, biting. Rain soaked her hair, her clothes, her shoes in seconds. The alley was narrow, lit by a single flickering neon sign that reflected on puddles beneath their feet. Dae-hyun pushed her behind a dumpster and pressed close, shielding her as he peered around the corner. 3 men, he murmured. 1 injured. 2 armed. How do you know that? She breathed. He cracked a faint, humorless smile. Because they're loud. And stupid. Aisha tried not to choke on a terrified laugh. He touched her cheek gently. Aisha, he whispered. Look at me. She did. His eyes were the only steady thing in the storm. I need you to trust me now. I'm trying. I know. He brushed his thumb across her jaw, a touch that lingered too long. Just breathe. I'll get you out. Footsteps splashed into the alley. Aisha stiffened. Her nails dug into the metal dumpster as silhouettes emerged through the curtain of rain. 3 figures. Black jackets. Weapons drawn. One of them spoke. The same voice she'd heard minutes earlier. I know you're out here, sweetheart. Aisha squeezed her eyes shut. Her breath caught in her throat. Jordan, the man who had hunted her across states. The man whose cruelty ruined her family. The man who promised she'd never escape him. Daehyun's entire body went still. In one heartbeat, his aura changed. From protective to lethal. He whispered into her ear, low as thunder before storm. Stay down. Don't make a sound. Aisha didn't argue. Daehyun stepped out from behind the dumpster and into the neon-lit alley. Jordan's men jerked their guns up immediately, but Jordan only grinned. Well, Kong Daehyun, he drawled, pulling down his hood to reveal cold eyes and a scar along his chin. Didn't expect Seoul's little nightmare to be babysitting tonight. Rain dripped down Daehyun's face, but he didn't blink. She's under my protection, he said. Jordan laughed. Cute, but she belongs to me. Daehyun's jaw flexed. She belongs to no one. Jordan stepped forward. You think you can hide her? You think you can keep what's mine? Daehyun didn't move, didn't flinch. If you touch her, he said quietly, I will bury you. Aisha felt her heart twist painfully. No one had ever defended her like that. No one had ever spoken for her like that. No one had ever stood between her and her nightmares. Jordan smirked. Big talk. Let's see if you can back it. He didn't finish the sentence, because Daehyun was already moving. He lunged forward, grabbing Jordan's wrist and twisting hard enough to make bone crack. Jordan screamed as his gun clattered to the ground. One of Jordan's men fired. Aisha gasped, but Daehyun pulled Jordan in front of him, using him as cover. The bullet tore into Jordan's shoulder instead. Jordan howled. The second man charged, swinging a metal pipe. Daehyun dodged, slammed his knee into man's stomach, then flipped him onto the wet pavement. The third attacker hesitated. Wrong choice. Daehyun moved like lightning, kicking the man's legs out and pinning him with a strike to the throat. It took less than 10 seconds. Silence exploded through the alley, except for Rain and Jordan's ragged breathing. Daehyun grabbed Jordan by the collar, slamming him against the brick wall. You hunted her, he growled. His voice sounded like something that had been chained for years. And now you're hunting her here? Jordan spat blood. She's mine. Daehyun's eyes turned murderous. She never was. Jordan smirked weakly. She didn't tell you, did she? About what she stole. Aisha's breath hitched. Daehyun didn't look back, but his voice sharpened. Don't listen to him. Jordan chuckled darkly. Ask her what she ran from. Ask her why she's worth killing for. Aisha felt her stomach twist. His words pierced every wound she tried to bury. Daehyun slammed Jordan harder into the wall. She doesn't owe you anything, he said. Jordan's grin widened. But she owes you the truth. Lightning flashed. Thunder rolled. The neon sign flickered. And Jordan whispered, she's the reason my brother died. Aisha's blood turned to ice. No, she whispered, stepping forward. Daehyun's eyes snapped to her. Hurt, confusion, anger, and protectiveness clashing all at once. Jordan saw it, and he laughed. Ask her, he said. Ask her what she did. Aisha shook her head, tears mixing with the rain. It's not what he thinks. It wasn't my fault. Daehyun released Jordan and took a slow step toward her. Not angry, not cold, just shattered. Aisha, he said softly, tell me the truth. She opened her mouth, but more footsteps echoed at the end of the alley. 6 more shadows. 6 more men, all armed. Jordan smirked through his pain. Round 2. Daehyun grabbed Aisha's hand instantly. We're leaving, he said through clenched teeth. But no more running from your past tonight, he whispered. Only running with me. He yanked her into the deeper alley as gunshots exploded behind them, shattering brick, spraying sparks, filling the night with thunder. Aisha's voice trembled as she ran beside him. Daehyun, I didn't kill his brother. I swear. His grip tightened. Then tell me, he said, voice raw. Tell me everything. Aisha swallowed hard. But you might hate me for it. Daehyun stopped abruptly, pulling her into the shadows between 2 buildings. Rain pounded around them. Gunshots echoed in the distance, but in this narrow space, it was quiet. Too quiet. He pressed his forehead against hers, breath rough, desperate. "I don't care what you did," he whispered. "I just want the truth." Her tears spilled. She opened her mouth, and a gun cocked behind them. Both of them froze. A shadow stepped forward. A voice she feared even more than Jordan's whispered. Well, found you." The rain returned that night. Not a soft drizzle, but a heavy, punishing downpour that slammed against the windows of Ji-young's black car as it cut through the streets of Seoul. Amina sat in the back seat with him, wrapped in one of his coats, her fingers trembling slightly as she held the warm cup of ginger tea he'd forced her to take. She hadn't spoken much since they left the docks, not because she was scared, but because something inside her had shifted. She could feel it the moment she'd seen Ji-young fighting in that warehouse, cold, precise, terrifying. Something inside her heart refused to go back to the way things were. He wasn't just a customer from a restaurant anymore. He wasn't just a man who flirted with danger. He was danger, and yet somehow she didn't want to leave the safety of the car, or the warmth of his coat, or the quiet way he kept glancing at her, checking if she was still shaking. The city looked blurred through the rain, blue neon smearing across the windows like paint. His voice broke the silence first. "You're thinking too loud." She blinked. "I'm just processing." He didn't look at her. "Processing fear?" "No," she whispered. That made him finally turn his head. His eyes softened. "Then what is it?" She hesitated, swallowed, looked down at the cup trembling in her hands. "You saved me tonight." He exhaled slowly and leaned back, not relaxed. There was tension in every line of his shoulders, but he wasn't as cold as before. "I told you," he murmured. "I don't let people touch what's mine." Her breath caught. "Ji-young, you can't say things like that." "Why?" he asked, voice low. "Because you don't like it? Or because you like it too much?" Her eyes lifted sharply. His jaw tightened as if he regretted saying it, but he didn't look away. The air in the car thickened. Before she could answer, the driver spoke in front. "Boss, they're still following." Ji-young's gaze snapped to the back window. A black SUV, hidden in the rain, trailing them. Not close enough to attack, but close enough to send a message. Amina's heartbeat thudded in her ears. "Who is that?" she whispered. Ji-young didn't answer immediately. His eyes turned dark, dangerous and calculating. "It's Kang Min's people. They want to see where I take you." Her chest tightened. "You mean they want to find me?" He turned back to her, grabbed her trembling hand, and pressed it down gently to still it. "They won't touch you," he said. "Not while I'm breathing." The words felt like a promise, one sealed with storm clouds and blood and fate. But Amina noticed something else. The slightest tremor in his fingers. He was angry. No, furious. Not at her. At himself. For letting her get dragged into his world. She spoke softly. "You're bleeding." He froze. She leaned forward, touching the corner of his jaw, where a thin cut bled down his neck. It wasn't deep, but seeing his blood made something inside her twist painfully. Ji-young stared at her hand on his skin. "You shouldn't care about wounds like mine," he said quietly. "It'll make things harder." "Too late," she whispered before she could stop herself. His eyes widened a fraction, then softened, almost like he wished she hadn't said it, almost like he wished she'd said it sooner. He reached up, covered her hand with his, and held it against his cheek for a moment, just a moment, before the driver interrupted again. "They're accelerating." Ji-young swore under his breath. Then he turned to Amina, his voice suddenly commanding. "When we stop, you run into the building I tell you. Do not look back. Do not call my name. Do not slow down." Her heart dropped. "Why? Where are you going?" His expression turned cold again. "I'm going to end this." The driver made a sharp turn. The SUV sped up behind them. Amina grabbed his arm. "No, you can't go alone." He turned sharply toward her, eyes blazing. "Amina!" Her breath stopped. "For once," he said tightly, "let me protect you." The car braked hard. They were in front of a tall, black building with mirrored windows and a golden phoenix emblem on the door. Ji-young's territory, the Echelon Tower. The rains were so heavy it was like stepping into a waterfall. The driver threw the door open. "Ma'am, hurry." Ji-young didn't give her a chance to protest. He grabbed the back of her head gently but firmly, pressed his forehead against hers, and whispered, "Don't be scared. I'll come back." Then, tires screeched. Doors slammed. The SUV behind them opened. Ji-young pushed her out of the car and shouted, "Amina, run." She ran. She ran to the pounding rain, across the marble pavement, toward the glowing entrance. But halfway there, gunshots cracked behind her. She stopped, turned, just 1 second, and saw something she would never forget. Jeong, standing alone in the rain, white shirt soaked, blood running down his jaw, facing 6 armed men approaching him from the SUV. And he didn't move, didn't hide, didn't flinch. He simply rolled up his sleeves and smiled, a cold, deadly smile, the kind a man wears before he destroys everything in front of him. Amina's stomach dropped. Jeong! But before she could scream his name, a hand grabbed her shoulder from behind. She spun around and froze. It wasn't one of Jeong's men. It was a stranger in a black umbrella. A stranger she had never seen before. A stranger who knew her name. Amina, he said calmly. Come with me. Her blood turned cold. Who are you? He lifted a small chain from under his coat. Dangling from it was a necklace she hadn't seen in 12 years. A necklace she thought she lost in America. A necklace that belonged to someone she never talked about. Someone dead. Someone she left behind. His smile widened. I believe this is yours. Her heart nearly stopped, and the rain suddenly sounded louder. The world around Amina went silent. The rain, the gunshots, the shouting, even the roar of Jeong's fight behind her. All of it faded into a dull, distant echo. Her eyes locked on the necklace, swinging from the stranger's hand. The worn silver chain, the tiny crescent moon charm, the faint scratch across the surface. She knew it instantly. It belonged to her twin brother. Her brother who died 12 years ago. Her brother whose body was never fully recovered. Her brother whose death shaped every fear she carried. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Where did you get that?" The stranger's umbrella tilted slightly, his face dipping out of shadows. Pale skin, dark hair, eyes too calm for the chaos surrounding them. "A gift," he said softly, "from someone you miss." Amina stepped back instinctively, but the stranger followed with slow, deliberate steps, like he had all the time in the world. "Don't be afraid, Amina," he murmured. "If I wanted to harm you, I wouldn't be standing here talking." Behind her, another gunshot cracked. A muffled curse from one of the men fighting Jeong. Amina's heart dropped. She spun her head for just a second, just long enough to see Jeong slam a man into the wet pavement, blood smearing across the ground. He was outnumbered, still fighting, still refusing to fall. She tried to run toward him, but the stranger's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist. Not violently, just firmly enough to stop her. "You can't help him," he whispered. "Not right now." He leaned closer until she could feel his breath against her ear. "But I can help you." She jerked her hand back. "Let go of me." The stranger studied her face. "You look just like him," he said, almost wistfully. "The same eyes, the same anger." "Stop," she said sharply. He slipped the necklace into her hand. Her fingers closed around it before she could stop herself. Warm, like it had been held recently. Her throat tightened painfully. "How?" She swallowed hard. This necklace was buried with him. The stranger's lips curled. "No," he corrected softly. "That's just what you believed." Her breath hitched. He leaned in. "Your brother didn't die the way you were told." Amina's entire body froze. Her pulse pounded in her ears. "What are you talking about?" The stranger opened his umbrella wider, shielding them from the rain like they were having a calm conversation instead of standing in a battlefield. "There are things Jeong didn't tell you," he murmured. "About his world, about the men chasing him, about why they want you." She shook her head. "This has nothing to do with me." "Doesn't it?" he whispered. "Your brother crossed paths with the same organization, stalking Jeong now. Their symbol is the phoenix, the same one on this building." Amina's chest tightened. Echelon Tower, the phoenix emblem, the tattoo Jeong's men carried. He continued, voice steady, cold. "Your brother was connected to Korean mafia long before you ever came here." "No," she whispered. "No, he wasn't. He was just in the wrong place that night. That's what the police said." "That's what?" "The police lied," the stranger snapped softly. Lightning flashed behind him, illuminating half his face. His expression was no longer soft, no longer calm. It was sharp, knowing, dangerous. "Your brother was working for a mafia clan," he said. "And he died because he tried to protect something or someone." Her heartbeat hammered. "What does that have to do with me?" The stranger smiled faintly. "Everything." Before she could ask anything else, a scream tore through the rain. Her name, Amina. She whipped around. Jeong, blood running down his cheek, shirt soaked and ripped, eyes fierce enough to burn through the storm, was fighting his way toward her. He had taken down 4 men. 2 more lunged at him. He fought like a cornered wolf, fast, brutal, unrelenting, his eyes never leaving her for a second. Amina, get away from him. The stranger sighed, as if annoyed at the interruption. Jeong is predictable, he murmured, always trying to protect what isn't his. Amina glared at him. He saved my life. Yes, the stranger said, stepping toward her slowly. But he can't save you from your past. Her breath caught. Something in his tone, like he knew her, more than he should, more than was possible. She stepped back. He stepped forward. Don't be afraid, he said. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know what happened to your brother. And I am the only one who can tell you. Her fingers tightened around the necklace until it dug into her skin. He reached out, palm up, as if offering a choice. Come with me, he said quietly. I'll explain everything. She shook her head. I'm not going anywhere with you. He tilted his head thoughtfully. Then I suppose, he said softly, I'll have to make you. He reached his hand toward her, but before he could touch her, a hand seized him from behind. Jeong, bloodied, breathing hard, eyes blazing with murderous rage. He shoved the stranger back violently and snarled. If you touch her again, I'll break your hands. The stranger stumbled but didn't fall. Instead, he straightened his coat, brushed rain from his shoulder, and smiled faintly. You really are still the same, Jeong. Amina's breath caught. You know him? The stranger's eyes flicked to her, then back to Jeong. Oh, he said softly. He didn't tell you? Jeong stepped in front of Amina protectively, chest rising and falling with fury. Walk away, Jeong growled. I'm warning you. The stranger ignored him. He looked directly at Amina. Jeong wasn't just involved in your brother's death. Amina froze. Jeong stiffened. The stranger's voice cut through the storm. He caused it. Amina's world shattered, and before she could breathe, the stranger vanished into the darkness behind the rain. The rain didn't just fall. It collapsed around them like the sky had shattered. Amina stood frozen in the middle of the marble entrance, her breath trapped her throat. The necklace clenched so tightly in her fist that the charm cut into her skin. Jeong's face drained of color. Not fear, not guilt, something deeper. Something he'd been running from long, before she ever stepped foot in Seoul. She could barely speak. What did he mean? Jeong didn't answer. He didn't turn toward her. He kept his eyes locked on the darkness where the stranger disappeared, his chest rising and falling with a rage so quiet it felt lethal. Lightning tore through the sky again. Amina took one slow, unsteady step back from him. Jeong, she whispered. Look at me. His jaw flexed. He didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't turn. Jeong. He finally looked, and she wished he hadn't, because the eyes staring back at her were filled with something she had never seen on him before. Fear. Amina, he said softly, don't listen to anything he told you. She felt her heart twist painfully. Then tell me he's lying. He flinched, barely, but enough. Her stomach dropped. She tried again. Tell me you had nothing to do with my brother. Silence. Rain. Thunder. The faint sound of sirens far away. He didn't blink. Didn't deny it. Amina's breath stuttered. Jeong. He finally spoke, voice low and raw. It wasn't supposed to reach you. She stumbled back. That's not an answer. He took a step toward her. She took another step back. The wound on his cheek was bleeding again. His shoulders were trembling, not from pain, but from something he was forcing himself not to say. Amina, listen to me. No, she cut sharply, voice trembling. You listen to me. That man said you caused my brother's death. You, Jeong. His eyes lowered for a split second. Just one. Just long enough to confirm he knew exactly what she was talking about, and long enough for something inside her to break. You knew? Amina whispered. You knew who I was when you met me? I didn't. Don't lie. He stopped. He looked as if the truth was suffocating him. Amina. His voice was thick. If you walk away right now, everything you believe will be wrong. She shook her head. Then fix it, she begged. Tell me what really happened. Tell me my brother didn't die because of you. Tell me you didn't walk into my life knowing the secret. He reached for her hand. She pulled back like his touch burned her. His expression crumpled. When I met you, he said quietly, I didn't know who you were. But later, she asked, voice shaking. Did you find out later? He didn't answer. Her heart dropped into her stomach. So you did. He pressed a hand against the wall behind her, trapped between the need to hold her and the fear that if he touched her, she might never forgive him. Amina, he said, voice breaking in a way she had never heard. I was going to tell you. I swear to you, I was going to tell you everything. But not like this. Tears blurred her view. She shook her head. You should have told me the moment you knew. His voice grew harsh, not at her, but at himself. I was trying to protect you. From what? The truth. No, he said sharply. From the people who killed your brother. The world seemed to tilt. Killed, she repeated. Not died. His eyes lifted to hers again. No, he said. Your brother didn't die in an accident. She felt her knees weaken. His voice dropped even lower. He was murdered. Amina's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her brother, her twin, her other half, murdered. She whispered, Jung, what did you do? He looked like he was swallowing broken glass. I wasn't the one who killed him, but I was there, and I didn't stop it. The ground disappeared under her. She pressed a hand to her mouth to stop the scream building in her throat. He reached toward her again. Amina, don't touch me. He froze. Thunder cracked overhead, shaking the windows behind them. For the first time since she'd met him, Jeong lowered his hand slowly, like a man surrendering everything he owned. Amina, he said, voice hollow. I didn't kill him, but yes, my world caused it. Her tears fell harder. My brother died because of you, she whispered. He flinched as if she'd stabbed him. His voice scraped out. I've been trying to atone for it ever since. The doors behind them burst open. Four of Jeong's men rushed out, weapons drawn, shouting, Boss! Reinforcements approaching. 3 cars, unknown clan. Jeong didn't turn, didn't blink. He kept his eyes on Amina like she was the only thing still tethering him to this world. Amina, he whispered, I will explain everything. But right now, I need you safe. She stepped back again. No, she said, voice breaking. Not this time. Not after what I just heard. Amina, let me go. His throat tightened. The pain in his eyes intensified, violent, helpless, desperate. Another explosion echoed down the street. His men were shouting. Cars were approaching. Enemies closing in. But Jeong looked at nothing. Nothing but her. Please, he whispered. Don't walk away. She held the necklace in her fist. Her brother's necklace. The truth she never wanted. The man she wasn't sure she could trust anymore. Rain poured down her face, like it was trying to wash away everything between them. I'm sorry, she whispered. I can't do this right now. She turned toward the building, but her foot hadn't even touched the first step when a gunshot cracked through the air, and Jeong's men screamed. Sniper. A hand yanked her backward violently. Jeong's hand, and he threw himself over her as a bullet shattered the stone where her head had been. She screamed. He grabbed her by the waist, dragging her behind a pillar, voice shaking with fury. Amina, get down! But it was too late, because the next bullet wasn't aimed at her. It was aimed at him, and this time, it hit. The sound of the gunshot didn't echo. It thudded. A brutal, heavy impact that swallowed all the sound around it. Amina didn't even understand what happened at first. She only felt Jeong's body jerk violently against hers. She felt his grip tighten around her waist. She felt his breath hitch, once sharp and jagged. Then she saw it, a burst of red blooming across his white shirt. Jeong, his knees buckled. No, 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 she choked, catching him as he collapsed against her. Her hand slid across his back, warm and slick with blood. He slumped forward, still shielding her with his own body even as he fell. His men screamed orders around them. Find the sniper. Get the boss inside. Cover the north roof. But Amina didn't hear anything except the sound of her own heartbeat crashing in her ears. Jeong's weight sagged against her, his breath shallow. She cupped his face in both trembling hands. Jeong, look at me. Hey, H-E-Y, look at me. His eyes flickered, dark, heavy, but they found her. You're safe, he whispered. She shook her head, sobbing. Don't say that like you're leaving. He tried to smile. He failed. His lashes fluttered as if he was fighting sleep. I told you, he murmured faintly. I don't let anyone hurt what's mine. Stop talking like that. She pressed her hand over his wound, trying to slow the bleeding. His blood ran between her fingers, warm and endless. "Boss, we need to move him now," one of his men shouted. Two stepped forward. Amina snapped at them like a wild animal. "Don't touch him. He's losing too much blood. Get a medic. Get anyone." One of the men crouched beside them. "Ma'am, please, we have to get him inside." A bullet struck the pillar behind them, sending stone chips flying. "Sniper reposition," another man yelled. Jeong's hand lifted weakly toward Amina's cheek. His fingers traced her skin, shaking, cold. "Don't cry." "Then don't die," she screamed back. His hand slipped. His eyes fluttered again. "Amina?" Her chest caved. "Stay awake, Jeong. Don't you dare fall asleep." He swallowed, but blood touched the corner of his lips. Someone screamed, "He's hit in the lung. Move him." But Amina grabbed his face with both hands. "Stay with me," she whispered through tears. "I didn't walk away. I'm still here. I'm right here." He blinked slowly, painfully. "Good." That one word shattered her, because he said it like it was the last thing he needed before he could let go. And she refused to let him. "No," she said fiercely. "Don't you stop fighting. Not now. Not after everything. I'm not losing you too. I'm not losing someone I—" Her voice broke. She couldn't finish. But maybe he heard the end anyway, because he tried to reach for her again. And a third bullet cracked the night. This one closer. Much closer. His men fired back wildly, forming a protective shield. Amina lowered her body over Jeong's, pressing her forehead to his. "Please," she whispered, voice trembling. "I can't lose you like I lost him. I can't." His breath caught. "I'm sorry," he whispered, voice barely audible. "For what?" she cried. He opened his mouth, but before he could speak, a shadow moved on the rooftop across the street. Her heart dropped. The sniper. A glint of metal reflected lightning. He aimed directly at them. Jeong's men saw it an instant too late. "Amina!" She turned and saw the muzzle flash. Not toward her, toward Jeong. Again, she screamed, "No!" A hand shot out of nowhere, a dark figure rushing between the bullet and Jeong. Another man took the shot. He collapsed beside them with a groan. Amina blinked through the rain, stunned. It was the stranger, the man with the umbrella, the man with her brother's necklace. Blood spread across his chest. He looked down at the wound as if mildly inconvenienced. Then he met Amina's eyes. "Don't let him die," he said quietly. Then he fell, face first into the rain. Amina's breath ripped from her lungs. Jeong's men swarmed around them again. "Get them inside now." "Call the surgeon." "Move, move." Hands lifted Jeong off the ground. Amina tried to hold on to him. His fingers brushed hers weakly. "Amina, I'm here," she whispered, running beside the men carrying him. His voice was thin, barely there. "Don't leave." "I'm not leaving." "Promise?" She squeezed his hand tighter. "I promise." His eyes finally closed. She screamed, "No, Jeong, open your eyes." But he didn't move. His hand slipped from hers as the doors of Echelon Tower slammed shut behind them. And outside, the stranger who saved him lay bleeding in the storm. By late afternoon, the sky hung heavy with a soft orange tint, the kind that made the city look peaceful, almost beautiful, if not for the violence waiting underneath. Cars drifted down Michigan Avenue, horns echoing lightly, pedestrians crossing in lazy clusters. But there was something off, a tension in the air, a stillness, like the city was holding its breath. Elena sensed it first. She was standing by the large window in Jae-sung's penthouse suite, staring down at the city lights. Her arms were crossed, her thoughts tangled. Behind her, Jae-sung was on the phone speaking sharply in Korean, pacing the marble floor with a look she hadn't seen on him before. Focus control, but there was an edge like a blade barely sheathed. Something had changed. Something big. When he ended the call, he didn't speak at first, just stood there, watching her, thinking, planning. "Tell me," she said without turning around. She didn't ask what. She knew he'd understand. Jae-sung inhaled slowly, then stepped closer, his voice low. "The Russians moved earlier than expected. My men confirmed Chekhov is already in Chicago." Her stomach tightened. "Already? You said they wouldn't come until next week." "That was before they intercepted 2 of my shipments," he replied, his tone steady but dark. "Chekhov is making a move to cripple my presence here before we even meet." Elena turned fully, eyes wide. "What does that mean?" What is he planning? Jae-sung adjusted his cufflink, something he often did when preparing himself mentally. It means, he said quietly, the war starts tonight. Hours later, Elena found herself seated at the long kitchen island, her fingers wrapped around a warm cup of tea she barely tasted. Jae-sung stood across from her, reviewing documents and maps spread over the marble countertop. Red circles, arrows, notes in Korean, plans for something unavoidable. She hated the distance between them, not physical, but emotional, the shift in his demeanor, the pressure he carried, the cold necessity of violence creeping closer. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She asked softly. He didn't look up. I didn't want to involve you. You already have. That made him pause. His eyes lifted, meeting hers. Elena, I am trying to keep you safe. Then stop lying to me, she whispered. The tension cracked. He exhaled a heavy, tired breath and closed the folder. Chekhov has a bounty on me, he confessed, and on anyone associated with me. He hesitated. Including you. Her breath hitched, the realization punching the air out of her lungs. A bounty? On her? Why me? She asked, voice barely audible. Jae-sung stepped closer. Because he thinks hurting you will hurt me. His hands brushed her arms, grounding her. He is right. Emotion flickered in her chest. Fear, anger, and something else that felt dangerously close to heartbreak. And what do you plan to do? She asked. His jaw tightened. I'm going to strike first. Later that evening, they drove to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city, one of Jae-sung's secure meeting points. The air was cold, the kind that bit through fabric. Inside, a handful of his most trusted men waited, Kwon, Min-jae, and two others she didn't recognize. Elena stayed close to Jae-sung, but he stopped her just before they approached a metal table filled with weapons and digital tablets. You don't need to be part of this, he murmured. She lifted her chin. I'm already part of it. And he didn't argue. Min-jae tapped the screen, showing a map of Chicago with multiple blinking red markers. These are Chekhov's men, Min-jae explained. They landed at O'Hare yesterday. We've tracked them to an abandoned textile facility near West Fulton. Elena, Jae-sung said, turning to her, I want you to stay with Kwon. She frowned. No, I want to stay with you. That is not negotiable. Their eyes clashed. Two wills. Two fears. Elena, I'm going to confront Chekhov's lieutenants. It will not be safe. Being without you won't be safe either. She shot back. They're targeting me too, remember? Kwon cleared his throat awkwardly. Min-jae looked away like a man who desperately didn't want to witness this conversation. Jae-sung's voice softened. I could not fight if I knew you were in danger near me. And I can't lose you, she whispered. Something shifted in his expression. Something vulnerable, raw. It was Min-jae who finally broke the silence. There's another option, he said carefully. Both of them turned. There's someone who can help us. Someone who hates Chekhov more than we do. Jae-sung's eyes narrowed. You can't be serious. Min-jae shrugged. She responded. She? Elena asked. Min-jae brought up a file on the screen. A photograph of a woman in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, confident, dangerous. Victoria Rourke, Min-jae said. Former DA. Now freelance intelligence broker. Elena recognized the name. She'd seen her on investigative pieces. Rumors of her taking down entire networks alone. Why would she help us? Elena asked. Because Chekhov killed her brother, Min-jae answered. Jae-sung didn't reply, for a long moment. Finally, set the meeting. The meeting place was a dimly lit bar closed after hours, tucked between abandoned brick buildings on the south side. The kind of place where secrets felt comfortable. Victoria was already there when they arrived, seated in a booth, a glass of whiskey in hand. She didn't look surprised to see them, almost like she had expected them to be late. Her cold blue eyes swept over Jae-sung first, then paused slightly on Elena, narrowing with curiosity. So you're the girl, Victoria said bluntly. Elena stiffened. What girl? The one he's risking a gang war over, Victoria replied without hesitation. Her smile was razor-thin. Interesting. Jae-sung's tone went cold instantly. You are here because we need information. Nothing more. Keep your comments to yourself. Victoria chuckled lightly. Relax. I'm not here to sabotage your little romance. I'm here because Chekhov deserves a bullet in his brain. She slid a folder across the table. That, she said, is where you'll find him tonight. Jae-sung flipped it open. Coordinates. Photos. Entry points. Guard counts. Movement patterns. Elena leaned closer, studying the images. He's using an old factory as a forward base, Victoria continued. There's also a shipment arriving at midnight. Heavy arms. Once he gets those, he'll gain the upper hand. So we hit first, Min Jae said. Exactly. Elena felt the chill run through her. This wasn't strategy anymore. This was war, and they were stepping directly into its center. After the meeting, they returned to the penthouse. The city outside was silent again, wrongly silent. Elena sat on the bed, while Jae-sung stood by the window, lost in thought. Tell me what's really bothering you, she said softly. He didn't move at first. Then, I have killed many men before. Without hesitation. Without regret, he said quietly. But for the first time in my life, I am afraid. She stood, walking toward him. Afraid of what? His voice cracked, barely. Afraid of losing you. Her breath stilled. The vulnerability in him was something she had never seen. Not fully. Not like this. She touched his face gently. You won't lose me. But he shook his head. War doesn't care about love. And yet, she whispered, you're fighting this war because of love. He closed his eyes, leaning into her touch like it anchored him. Elena, if anything happens to me tonight. No, she interrupted firmly. Don't say that. You must listen, he insisted, his hands gripping her arms, warm and desperate. If anything happens, Min Jae will take you out of the city. Guan will stay with you. You must go with them. Do not come after me. She shook her head fiercely. I'm not leaving you. You will, he said. You have to. Her heart twisted painfully. How can you ask me to do that? Because loving you means protecting you, even for myself. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. Jae-sung wiped it gently, his thumb soft against her skin. Elena, he leaned in, pressing his forehead to hers. There is no part of this world I fear, he whispered, except the part where you are gone. She broke then, silent, aching, and he kissed her like the night might swallow them. When the clock struck 11:42 p.m., Jae-sung's team gathered in the garage. Weapons checked, phones encrypted, vehicles ready. The tension was suffocating. Elena stood by one of the SUVs, gripping the passenger door. She wasn't crying anymore, but she wasn't calm either. She was something else entirely. Determined. Jae-sung approached her wearing a black tactical jacket, his expression carved from steel. This is your last chance, he said quietly. You stay here. She stared right back. No. Elena, if you walk into danger, she said, voice trembling but unbroken, then I walk into it with you. His jaw clenched. He hated it. He admired it. He feared it. Min Jae looked between them nervously. Guan pretended not to listen, but absolutely was. Jae-sung exhaled slowly. Fine, he said, but you stay beside me at all times. You have my word. He nodded once and opened the SUV door for her. The engines roared to life. The convoy rolled out into the night. And Chicago, quiet, watching, waiting, held its breath again. Because tonight wasn't just another move in a criminal empire. Tonight was the beginning of a war, and the beginning of something deeper, darker, and more fragile between them. A love strong enough to fight for, a war dangerous enough to destroy it. The city was quiet, too quiet. Jae-sung's convoy moved through the rain-slick streets of Chicago like shadows slipping between light and darkness. Elena gripped his arm, pulse racing, every nerve screaming with tension. The factories loomed ahead, their steel frames black against the faint glow of the streetlights, windows like eyes watching their every move. This is it, Jae-sung murmured, voice low and precise. Once we go in, there's no turning back. Elena swallowed hard but didn't let go. Then we go together. He glanced at her, and for a moment the cold, unflinching facade of the mafia boss softened. In his eyes, she saw vulnerability, determination, and something she had never dared to hope. Trust. The SUV stopped just outside the perimeter. Rain hammered the rooftops and splashed off the concrete, masking the distant hum of sirens and the faint whispers of the city. Jae-sung motioned to his men, who silently spread out, weapons ready. He turned to Elena. Stay close. Stay quiet. And whatever happens, stay alive. She nodded. I won't leave you. For a moment, he seemed to consider arguing, but the storm around them reminded him that words were useless. He held her hand tightly. Then we fight. The factory doors creaked as they slipped inside, shadows folding over them like silk. Inside, the place smelled of rust and oil and the faint, acrid scent of gunpowder lingered. Men moved through the darkness, unaware of their approach, guards unprepared for what was coming. Jae-sung moved like a predator, silent, efficient, deadly. Elena followed, heart-hammering, every step a testament to her courage. Together, they were a storm contained within two bodies. Suddenly, the main floor erupted in chaos. Chekhov's men had spotted them. Gunfire shattered the silence. Elena ducked instinctively behind a steel pillar as bullets tore through the air. Jae-sung fired, his movements precise, his focus unwavering. "Elena, stay down," he shouted, firing as he covered her. She shook her head, determination blazing through fear. "No, I'm not leaving you." A grenade landed near one of the crates. Jae-sung dove to shield her, pulling her to ground. The explosion rocked the floor, splintering wood, and sending a cloud of dust into the air. Through the chaos, Elena caught sight of Chekhov himself, tall, imposing, smirking despite the hail of gunfire. His eyes found Jae-sung immediately, recognizing the man who had defied him for years. "You're too late, Jae-sung," Chekhov snarled. "You cannot stop this." Jae-sung rose, eyes cold. "I already stopped you." With a fluid motion, he moved forward, taking down the nearest two guards, his every step a message. Tonight, he would end this. Elena followed, adrenaline sharpening her movements. Together, they were unstoppable. Chekhov raised a pistol. Jae-sung's eyes flicked to Elena. He whispered, "Stay behind me." Then he launched himself at Chekhov. The fight was brutal, fast, and precise. Jae-sung overpowered Chekhov, using his own momentum against him. Elena, hard in her throat, watched as Chekhov faltered for the first time. "You won't escape," Chekhov hissed. "I don't need to," Jae-sung replied, "because I'm not running anymore." With a final, decisive move, Jae-sung disarmed Chekhov, sending him sprawling across the wet concrete floor. He pressed his gun to Chekhov's temple. Silence fell over the factory, a silence so thick it felt like the entire city was holding its breath. "Your reign is over," Jae-sung said quietly. "Leave now or die here." Chekhov's eyes flickered with hatred, then fear. He didn't move. Jae-sung didn't hesitate. He shot the gun into the ceiling, a warning shot that echoed through the factory. Chekhov finally scrambled to the exit, disappearing into the night. Elena exhaled shakily, stepping toward Jae-sung. He turned, eyes locking on hers. Blood ran down his cheek from a shallow scratch, but his expression was calm, victorious. "You're alive," she whispered, tears brimming. "I told you I wouldn't let anything happen to you," he said, pulling her into his arms. The factory seemed to fade around them, leaving only the two of them standing in the aftermath. The storm passed. The city outside seemed calmer, quieter, almost grateful. Police sirens approached, but Jae-sung's men had already cleared the immediate area. They stood together on the rooftop, looking out over the glistening streets of Chicago. Elena rested her head on his shoulder. "It's over," she whispered. "For now," he replied. "But we've won tonight. That counts for something." Her hands traced the scar on his cheek. "You didn't tell me everything before, but I understand now. You did what you had to do, for me, for your people, for us." Jae-sung wrapped his arms around her. "I never wanted you involved, but I couldn't let you walk away either. Not after everything." She lifted her head to look at him, rain-slicked hair plastered against her face. "Then stay with me," she said softly. "No more secrets. No more distance." He smiled faintly, the first real smile she had seen in weeks. "That's a promise." And then, under the first faint blush of dawn breaking to the clouds, they kissed. Not a hurried, reckless kiss, but a kiss that held everything: pain, survival, love, and hope. The city had tried to tear them apart. The mafia wars, the assassins, the bullets. They had survived it all. And now, finally, they could just be together. Jae-sung pulled her close one last time, whispering against her hair, "You're mine, and I'm yours, forever." Elena smiled through her tears, resting her forehead against his. "Forever," she echoed. The city stretched out below them, endless and glowing, a reminder that life went on. But for now, in this quiet rooftop moment, nothing mattered except the warmth of each other. The war had ended. The danger had passed. The love had survived. And for the first time in a long time, Amina, Elena, Jae-sung, they could breathe. The night ended, but their story, their life together, was just beginning. The end.